Late-night boredom for me is the silent killer. After watching every single true crime documentary on Netflix, Hulu, and YouTube, I was running out of avenues to explore. That's when I remembered that I had downloaded the Tor browser for the dark web months ago. I had built my PC from the ground up all by myself, and I was proud of it. There wasn't much to do at 1 o'clock in the morning. So I decided, what the hell? I began searching for true crime videos. Some of it was your run-of-the-mill cases of a marriage gone wrong, or a pizza delivery driver that had a bomb attached to him like a Saw movie, but it wasn't until I stumbled upon a playlist called simply The List that I began digging myself down a whole new rabbit hole. The video started kind of cheesy. It was grainy and had a low enough quality that it could have been recorded from a toaster. It started with the top of a black hood from a hoodie. A face slowly rose into frame. It was a lion mask. Cheap, shiny, and I guarantee you it could be found at Dollar Tree during Halloween. The masked man began to speak.
Good evening. My name is Ulysses. This playlist will consist of videos that are factual and damning. A little girl named Molly Sinclair was abused multiple ways by Pastor Claire Gray of the United Front Church. This is merely an intro video. I will give you documentation as well as other pieces of evidence to avenge Molly. Before I conclude this video, I just have a simple question. Are you on the list?
The video crackled as it faded to black. After the video concluded, I looked for a timestamp. I wasn't sure how old these videos were. I could have gone through the metadata, but again, I wasn't that invested. It seemed like a cool beginning to a horror movie or something. Since the next video was already queued up, I decided to hit play. The video began the same way, with him slowly raising his head to reveal the lion mask.
Good evening. This is Ulysses the Lion again. Today I want to talk to you about the man in this photo.
He raised the photo into view of the camera lens.
This man's name is Zane McDonald. He is the mayor of the town of Kingston. He is a pillar of the community and he attends the United Front Church. He seems to have had his Bible passages crossed. It's supposed to be an eye for an eye and turn the other cheek. This man turned a blind eye when it came to the assault of Molly Sinclair. This video is a testimony for you. However, with this envelope, I am mailing him a letter. It contains all the information that I could find on his corruption. He will be instructed to wire money to a P.O. box or it all gets leaked. Mayor McDonald is on it. Are you on the list?
The series started with a banger. Calling out the mayor in the first video was crazy work. To know that a little girl was being assaulted and do nothing about it in your community is deplorable. Only the second video in the playlist and I've already invested. I continued down to the next.
Good evening. This is Ulysses the Lion again. Take a look at this photo now. This is Phyllis Stone. She is 78 years old as of recording this video and is a big donor to the United Front Church. She seems to spend quite a bit of her retirement to tithe to the church. She also knows about the incident with Molly Sinclair. Yet she chose to do nothing and spoke with her wallet. This envelope is the same as Mayor McDonald's. I believe that she should use the money for good instead of corruption. Phyllis Stone is on it. Are you on the list?
This old lady looks like your run-of-the-mill grandmother. If she knew about the assaults, then there is no excuse for her. Old or not, that is a moral compass issue. Just looking at her picture made my blood boil. On to the next video.
Good evening. This is Ulysses the Lion once again. Today we are going to talk about another pillar of the community that stands just as tall as Mayor McDonald. The man in the photo is called Ryan Connors. He owns and operates all 4 of the major supermarkets in Kingston. Like Phyllis, he puts a lot of money into the United Front Church. He was allegedly an accessory to the assault on multiple occasions of Molly Sinclair, and I do have visual evidence to prove it. A copy of the evidence as well as a letter are being sent to him. Money is clearly not an object to this man. After watching this video, he will literally put his money where his mouth is. Ryan Connors is on it. Are you on the list?
That last sentence gave me full body chills. If such a thing is in existence, then it needs to be sent to the proper authorities. Why does it always seem like the biggest figureheads of the community are the biggest creeps? I let out an angry growl as I went to the next video.
Good evening once again. This is Ulysses the Lion. After my last video you might have asked yourself why I haven't gone to the proper authorities, and today I will tell you why. This man is the Chief of Police, Wayne Sanders. He is the head of the Kingston Police Department, and he is just as dirty as the criminals he puts behind bars. I once heard someone say that the police protect those with the most money. I believe without a shadow of a doubt that that is what he's doing with Ryan Connors. The same video I sent to Connors was sent to Sanders. That was 3 months ago and I have yet to get a response. Maybe this photograph can speed up the process. In the photo is a picture of Sanders' wife, Sandra, along with their 3 children, Wyatt, Lindsay, and Peter. The photo, along with another copy of the visual evidence and a letter, will surely help him remember to protect and serve. Wayne Sanders is on it. Are you on the list?
Shit just got really corrupt really fast. The chief of police is in on this? The mayor? It seems like anybody with power or money is tangled up in this web. I noticed that there were only 2 videos left in this playlist. I'm down the rabbit hole deep enough that I cannot see daylight. I have to finish these.
Good evening. Ulysses the Lion, once again gracing your screen. You're probably wondering why I'm wearing this mask. The answer is simple. Ulysses the Lion is the mascot of Mason Elementary School here in Kingston. A king, an apex predator, a zodiac symbol. Ulysses represents the power and the loyalty of our community. Until a group of people decided to bastardize it. This next photo belongs to the principal of Mason Elementary. Her name is Zoe Dillinger. She was the first person Molly's parents went to about the incident at United Front Church. Since the church and the school exchange money so often, Zoe told them to keep their mouths shut. The separation of church and state is as good as dead in this town. And Miss Dillinger has been added to a list that is so corrupt it could burn the entire town of Kingston to the ground. Her letter will consist of audio of the conversation Molly's parents had with her in her office. Zoe Dillinger is on it. Are you on the list?
I know it's a little childish, but growing up I was always told that principal had the word pal at the end because they were your friend and could be trusted. This made me sick to my stomach that a family went to somebody they could trust and were told to shut up. I guess money really does have the power to make things go away. I took a deep breath and told myself as I hovered over the last video, "All right, Shandy, let's finish this." I hit play on the final video.
Good evening, Ulysses the Lion here for the final time. I saved the best, or should I say the worst, for last. Claire Gray is a predator. She is the youth pastor of United Front Church who assaulted Molly Sinclair. Not just once but multiple times throughout an entire year. The story was covered up, the corruption festered, and just looking at this photo makes me want to vomit. I sent Claire her letter first, hoping to make this whole thing go away. However, a letter was sent back to the P.O. box. That was a simple fuck you letter. Claire Gray was given her chance to make things right and she refused. Now she will see the consequences of her actions.
With his right hand, Ulysses took off his mask and revealed himself to the camera.
My name is Lawrence Sinclair. I am Molly's uncle. My brother and his wife couldn't muster the strength to do what needed to be done. However, I do. Being a retired soldier has taught me to be what the world needs me to be.
Lawrence gripped the green screen in his hand and pulled it down to reveal Claire Gray bound and gagged to a chair. Lawrence then went off camera and a mechanical sound could be heard. He was starting up a chainsaw. Once it was turned on, he began to rev it as he approached Claire. Her screams got louder as she started to cry and shake.
Claire will now give me the pound of flesh that I seek. She could have prevented this, but chose to burrow in her own filth. She will be slaughtered like the pig that she is. Claire Gray was on the list. Are you on the list?
As the blade inched closer to Claire, the video cut to black, but you could hear chainsaw meeting flesh, right along with screams. I closed the video quickly. My heart was racing and I was sweating, trying to catch my breath. If what I just watched was true, then I believe that justice was beginning to be served. If it wasn't, then it's one hell of an ARG. However, I hope it's the former, in some capacity anyway. I could report what I just watched, but I'm halfway across the country from Kingston. I will use my platform to turn the other cheek the way that it's supposed to properly be used.
I woke up in darkness. I checked my phone, and it read 2:37 a.m. I was once again dealing with insomnia. I don't really sleep much these days, especially because of the line of work that I'm in. I'm a detective, but my work solely happens on the dark web. I take a deep breath and roll my eyes as I walk to my kitchen to pour me a glass of water. As soon as I guzzle the glass, I got a ping on my phone. It was another job. The header just read Cold Case 1997. He never came home. As I opened the email and read it, I was shocked at the asking price. Hello, detective. My name is Cassidy. For about 30 years now, I've been trying to find out what happened to my brother. His name is Christian, and he was abducted in our neighborhood back in 1997. After countless nights at the library, police station, and in front of a computer screen, I have finally decided to give somebody else a fresh look. My mother, unfortunately, passed away last week and left me with all of her life insurance money. I'm offering you $100,000 to solve this cold case. I couldn't do it. Law enforcement couldn't do it. And I'm afraid that you're my last hope. The amount may be out of desperation, but I need to know what happened to Christian. Thank you for taking time to read this email, Detective Pines. Regards, Cassidy. A $100,000 bounty was enough to destroy any shred of sleep I was going to get tonight. Attached at the very bottom of the email were several PDF files. The first one was a scan of an old newspaper article. The title of the article was He Never Came Home. This was the first published story about Christian's disappearance. He was on his way home from his friend's house after eating pizza and watching Toy Story. After a few hours went by, his family began to worry as he never came home. Hours turned into days. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into years. And years turned into decades with no sign of Christian or anything. The next file was the missing persons report. Attached was a picture of him with all of his information. What he was wearing, the birthmark on the back of his neck, and of course his last known whereabouts. This was released 3 days after he went missing. Since I was in California, I had never really heard of this story because it happened in a small little town in Missouri. I just stared at his picture for what felt like hours as I could see the face of a happy little boy. But there was something else there that I couldn't explain. I shook it off as exhaustion as I opened the next document. It was another scan of what looked like to be Cassidy's research. It was in her handwriting as she explained that there was a connection with missing children in the area and rumors of a cult that was potentially abducting the children. Apparently the name of the cult was called the Ladder. The story went that they would abduct children and sacrifice them not for a god or for fame or fortune. They would just do it because they were psychotic. Doing this to children was fun for them. Nothing more, nothing less. After taking another deep breath and brewing myself a pot of coffee, I emailed Cassidy back that I would take the job. Sure, it was nothing but a campfire story, but the money was good. I booked the next flight to Missouri. After landing and getting situated in my hotel, Cassidy and I agreed to meet at the Denny's in Springfield. There she said that she would give me more documentation and explain herself further. I arrived an hour early, just in case this was a setup. However, I saw a beat-up car pull into the parking lot, and a woman with black hair and a ponytail wearing sunglasses and looking like she was late for yoga had a manila envelope tucked under her arm as she was scanning the parking lot for me. I got out of my rental car and greeted her with a handshake. I could see her face turning red as her lip began to tremble. Detective Pines, it's finally nice to meet you in person. Let's head inside and we will discuss details, she said to me as she lifted her sunglasses and wiped tears from her eyes. We sat in the corner booth in the back of the restaurant as the waiter brought us coffee. She finally took a deep breath and removed her sunglasses as she slid them onto the table. Listen, detective, I have dedicated my entire life to this investigation. A part of me thinks that Christian is still alive, and an even smaller part of me thinks that he has been dead since 1997. I just need to know. I need the closure, especially since it's just me now. My dad passed away 7 years ago, and then Mom recently. It's just me now, and I would like comfort in knowing. She concluded by taking a sip of her coffee mug. Cassidy, I understand your desperation. Getting closure for your brother is something that will bring you comfort. I hope that I am able to provide that for you. I have a friend of mine looking into the ladder for me. If they so much as ever sneezed underground, he will find their location. Cassidy had a little bit of a look of hope on her face. She handed me the envelope. Here's everything that I know. I was able to track down the van that potentially took him, but I'm afraid I couldn't find the license plate, she said as I looked at the first page of the stack. My buddy will be able to figure it out, I promise. I skimmed through the papers before putting them back in the envelope. I told her that I would keep in touch and gave her my business card. I took my first and only sip of my coffee and left the restaurant. When I got back to my hotel room, I received a call from my friend Max. Max, what did you find? I started our conversation with a question. Hey Bill, it took me a little bit, but I was able to track down the coordinates of the cult. I'm emailing you the coordinates now. I have to tell you, these nihilistic bastards are not to be taken lightly. They kill for fun, and their only direction is the direction their leader Zeus tells them to point. I thought to myself that Zeus was a cheesy and cliche name for a leader. How much of an ego does a guy need to have to call himself the king of gods? I thanked Max for his information and told him I was going to get to work first thing in the morning. I laid down on my hotel bed with intentions to sleep, but I knew that it potentially would never come. That evening it didn't. Through a crack in the curtains of the window, I could see the sunrise. I just rubbed my temple and hopped in the shower. I put the coordinates into my computer, and it showed me a mound of dirt in the middle of nowhere. I stopped by the hotel breakfast bar, grabbed a coffee and a cream cheese bagel, and headed that direction. As my GPS told me I was getting closer, I was met by a rusted gate with two guards. One had an AR-15 and the other had a machete. They both approached my driver's side window and signaled for me to roll it down. Good morning, sir. What can we do for you? The gun-wielding guard asked, as the other continued to bounce the machete blade up and down on the palm of his hand. I looked at him and responded, My name is Bill Pines, and I am here to speak with Zeus. The two guards looked at each other in surprise as the one with the machete nodded his head up and down. With a push of his button on his wrist, the rusted gates opened. I slowly began to drive before I was met with two more guards, both armed with the same weapons. They looked a little less friendly, as one of them told me to turn my car off and hand him the keys. I did just that as he began to escort me down a flight of stairs that eventually turned into complete darkness. As the light of the sun began to dwindle, the guard pulled out a flashlight and ushered me down a dark corridor like a movie theater usher. We came to a brass door with a giant boar's head with a knocker and nostrils. He knocked 4 times as it opened. Through the doorway, he guided me to another guard as he walked back to his post. This new guard escorting me walked me through what looked like a commune. There were tables filled with fresh produce, canned goods, and stacks upon stacks of bottled water that went almost all the way up to the ceiling. This was all I could make out, because the corners of the room were lit with torches and nothing else. I was guided yet again into another room, except the guards stayed with me this time. This room was ceiling to floor full of what looked like dog cages filled with children. They were yelling at me for help as they rattled the cages and crying in almost perfect unison. I took a deep breath through my nose and closed my eyes as we ventured through the room. On the other side of that room was a big cherry red door. It had a giant Z carved in the middle of it. We both walked into Zeus's quarters. I was eye to eye with a tall man that had a lengthy, scraggly beard. He waved off the guard as if to tell him to get out. When the door closed, he arose from his chair and began to speak. "Well, Mr. Pines, you seem to know me, but I've never heard of you," he said with a furrowed brow and a long, skinny finger pointed at me. I was looking to join the latter. I said, while changing my tone into something more serious, "I had heard about your organization through the dark web. If you'll have me, I would really like to join. I can earn my keep, and I will do whatever it takes." His furrowed brow quickly turned into a sinister smile. "Well, Bill, we're always looking for new recruits. We would love for you to join us. However, there's just one teeny tiny thing that must happen. An initiation needs to be presented." Zeus said to me with a little bit of malice in his voice. I just tilted my head. "An initiation, sir," is all I could say. "Yes, sir. Each new member must complete their initiation before they can join. You must prove to us that you have what it takes, and kill one of the children provided," he said, as I swore that his mouth began to water. On the inside, my heart was sinking into my stomach, but on the outside, I was cool and collected as I told him that I would do it. "Wonderful. Please meet me in the foyer, and we will begin," Zeus said as he walked out of his quarters. After sitting there contemplating this whole thing, I realized that I was probably in too deep and had to go through with this. A couple of minutes later, I walked out to see Zeus wrangle up a small boy by ripping him out of his cage. The girl that he shared the cage with began to cry and scream louder than any of the other children. "Please, sir, take me instead. Don't take him." Her pleas fell upon deaf ears as Zeus dragged the boy into the foyer. From the ceiling, a metal rack was lowered. Zeus began to strap the boy in and handed me a machete. The boy was crying with tears, snot, and slobber all running down his face. He was asking me not to do it. I had second thoughts and thought about just straight up ramming the machete into Zeus's chest. Still with my demeanor disguised, I closed my eyes and lopped the boy's head clean off. The rest of the cult began to cheer and applaud me for my efforts. "Welcome to the ladder, Bill," Zeus said as he stuck his hand out for me to shake. Once again, my first instinct was to cut it off with the machete, but I reached my hand out and completed the handshake. "However, since you are a part of us now, you need a new name," Zeus said to me as he took the machete from my hands. "McClane. You can call me McClane. It's the only thing I could think of because John McClane from the Die Hard movies was one of my heroes growing up." "Wonderful. Welcome, Mr. McClane," Zeus said as he patted me on the back and went back to his quarters. Another man walked beside me and greeted me. "McClane, my name is Goodwill. I will be showing you to your new room." He then escorted me to the very end of the hallway that was once again lit by torches. He showed me a room that consisted of a bed, desk, and a bookcase filled with different kinds of books. As soon as Goodwill shut the door, I fell to my knees and began to shake and cry at what I had done to that poor boy. I spent the last few days earning my keep and helping out around the compound. We mostly kept to ourselves, but the occasional conversation would emerge. Goodwill, an avid football fan, would drop knowledge about NFL records like touchdowns in the game, yardage, that kind of thing. It was actually a little bit of normalcy leaking through the insanity. That was my current position. All I'd been thinking about was the little boy that I killed. The worst part was coming up with scenarios in my head. Was he loved? Were his parents currently looking for him right now? What school did he go to? It's always a messed up game when you're playing 20 questions all by yourself with no answers. I also don't have cell service down in the tunnel, so I hadn't been able to respond to Max or Cassidy. I had snuck my phone in when I joined, and they hadn't found the contraband. I overheard a member named Pepsi telling Zeus that we needed to go into town to get supplies this week. I volunteered that I would go with them. It's actually a pretty interesting setup. Someone is in charge of making a grocery list, and we just go to as many supermarkets as it takes to fulfill the list. I'm not sure what they did with my rental car, but Zeus said that there was only one vehicle on the premises. It was an old church bus that he wanted auctioned. Zeus told me that he was impressed with how far I'd come in just a few days, and said he'd be happy for me to go into town to get supplies. I went with Goodwill and Pepsi and smuggled my phone into my jacket pocket. While they were grocery shopping, I faked a stomach ache and excused myself to the restroom. In one of the stalls, I called Max back after I had about a dozen missed calls from him during the past few days. Max, I'm sorry. Down in the cave. I have no cell service, and this is the first time I've seen sunlight in 3 damn days. Max responded hastily, Bill, listen, I was doing a little bit of research about this cult. Don't ask me my sources, because then I would have to kill you. However, this cult solely relies on the leader. If the leader does not appoint a replacement and dies before doing so, then the cult must do a mass suicide. What that means, Bill, is if you chop off the head, you kill the snake. I sat there tinkering with the idea. I could get the information I needed about Christian, and I could take care of the cult. 2 birds, 1 stone. I needed to change my pace and get to the bottom of what I was originally paid to do. I thanked Max for his research and got out of the restroom quickly. Goodwill and Pepsi were waiting at the bathroom door for me, already checked out and ready to head back to the compound. I apologized to them and made a comment about how there must have been dairy in the communal breakfast that morning. They didn't think much of it as we loaded up the van and headed back. Another day went by, and I saw somebody walk into a room that I didn't know existed. They came out holding a manila folder. All I could think was that this was a room they used to keep records. So when nobody was looking, I snuck in and began going to work. Sure enough, there was a row of filing cabinets. It was alphabetized and more organized than some libraries I've been in. I went straight to the filing cabinet that I thought would have consisted of Christian's information. After going through a few files, there he was. I pulled out his file and walked straight to my room. The folder consisted of some very chilling things. They had all of his information: his address, what school he went to, his routine during the summer and winter breaks, and even the best times for abduction. The next piece of paper was very telling. It was handwritten and, in so many words, written by the previous leader of the cult. His name was Iowa. Iowa took a liking to Christian very early on. He liked his demeanor, attitude, and the numbness of his feelings. The report went on to say how after a while, Iowa's admiration turned into despair. Christian had become a monster. He had no morals, no anger, and couldn't care less about anything. He was not only killing his fellow children, but he was also taking out members of the cult if they crossed him. Iowa's fear was that he would be next, meaning that if Christian killed him, the cult would cease to exist. This fear was so strong that Iowa decided to step down and give his position to Christian. At his induction ceremony, Iowa officially deemed him the leader of the latter. Christian went on to pick the name Zeus as his new nickname for the role. Zeus was the little boy that I was looking for. That little boy definitely disappeared back in 1997. This was devastating, and I couldn't help but think about Cassidy. How was I going to break it to her? I shook off the feeling as I was getting ahead of myself. I needed to end this for me, Cassidy, and all of those children still caged in that room. At dinner that evening, we were standing in line waiting for our slop. Zeus was already at the head table, eating his food with 2 guards on either side, wielding their machetes. I had taken a spoonful of peas and carrots before excusing myself to go talk to Zeus. He saw me approaching as he had a big smile on his face. As I was passing by one of the tables, I had grabbed a dagger from one of the cult members' pocket. I walked behind the head table as Zeus dismissed his 2 guards so that I could have a conversation with him. As soon as they got far enough away, I took the dagger and held it against Zeus's throat. "Nobody move, or I will fucking kill him," I said as I pressed it harder. "McLean, what are you doing?" Zeus said with a little bit of panic in his voice. "I'm doing something that should have been done a long time ago. Ending this charade." I took one of the lanterns sitting on the table and threw it across the room of the gas stove. I had started a kitchen fire. As soon as I threw it, Zeus grabbed me and threw me onto the table, breaking the legs. As the flames got higher, so did the stakes. We tussled back and forth before I eventually gained the upper hand. One of the guards dropped his machete before he ran for the exit. It was a struggle, but I eventually gained access to it. With anger in his eyes and fire that matched our surroundings, Zeus began to turn red as he gritted his teeth at me. After a few punches to the face, blood began to pour out of his nose and his lips. "Why, McLean, why?" he said angrily, looking up at me. After hesitating for a moment, I looked at him and said, "Don't worry, I won't tell Cassidy a thing about this." His anger turned into sadness as it took him a moment to realize the name I had just said. All he could do, with tears in his eyes, was take a deep breath, nod at me, and close his eyes. Just then I sliced his head off like I had done to the boy. The remaining cult members saw what I had just done as they took out their weapons and killed themselves individually. Dozens of bodies were covering the grounds of the commune. Before it was too late, I made my way into the cage room. When I got in there, I freed every child that was in there as I escorted them out to safety. Just as the last couple got out, smoke began to take over where the entrance once stood. After catching my breath from the smoke in my lungs, I looked up to see the little girl that was crying before I killed the boy. She looked at me and began to speak. "I want to thank you for saving our lives. However, I cannot forgive you for what you did to my little brother Gabriel. My name is Carmen Vasquez. I will have my revenge, and I will find you someday. The day is yours, but I will return." After she stated her piece, she disappeared as she slowly walked into the forest. After a few days, I was able to re-enter society. I was sitting in a hotel room with my laptop open. I had started an email. I was going to write an email to Cassidy. I didn't have the courage to tell her face-to-face about her brother, nor did I want to call her. I figured an email would be sufficient. As I stared at my blank screen, I struggled to find the words to tell her. All I could do was stare as the cursor blinked in anticipation.
Earlier this week, my dad was struck and killed by a drunk driver. That drunk driver's name was Timothy Pruitt. My dad was walking on the sidewalk heading to my Uncle Joseph's house for spaghetti dinner on Tuesday night. Timothy hit my dad as well as a giant metal pole. They both were dead unseen. My father, Jason Holt, was only 51. He had so much life to live and it was taken from him by some jackass in a red Jeep Wrangler. I put him to rest today. Only a handful of people attended the funeral. My Uncle Joseph and I were the most distraught. The rest were lingering coworkers, an ex-girlfriend, and the funeral director. Dad was quite the character. He was quick to make a dirty joke, randomly shout lyrics to classic rock in the middle of a crowded room, and was always the first to say I love you. The only drawback was he was addicted to his phone. Every dinner, he was on it. Every time I came over to watch the Bengals game, he was on it. It didn't matter, he was always scrolling through Facebook, watching war documentaries on YouTube, or discreetly looking at hot chicks on Instagram. I once told him that he was so buried in that phone that I was going to bury it with him when he passed away. That's exactly what I did. As a joke between me and Uncle Joseph, I buried Dad with his cell phone. It wasn't until after that I discovered Dad had switched to a phone carrier I'd never heard of called Ferryman Wireless. I didn't blame him for his switch. He was only paying $20 a month. Here I was paying over $200 a month with probably the same amount of coverage. I guess I was the real sucker. The only questionable thing about it was he had gotten on a phone plan through the dark web. How he did that I'll never know. After the funeral, Uncle Joseph and I went to Dad's favorite restaurant, Hooters. Uncle Joseph enjoyed the food and the atmosphere. I just enjoyed the latter. I once got food poisoning from eating their Daytona beach wings, and I've never been the same since. After dinner, Uncle Joseph and I parted ways for the evening and agreed to carry on the Tuesday night dinner tradition at his place. I went back home alone with my leftovers. Something clicked inside me, and I immediately started bursting into tears. I kept it together for the most part, but since I was home alone and nobody could hear me cry, I decided to let loose. I really just wanted to hear my dad's voice one more time. They were going to shut his phone off in the morning, so it was now or never. I pulled out my phone and called my dad's phone for the last time. Just hearing his voicemail would be enough for me. God, I just want to hear his voice one more time. I wish you were still here, old man. I said to myself as I put the phone up to my ear. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times, and before the 4th ring, I could distinctly hear my dad's voice saying, "Grady, what's up?" I was stunned, hearing him say those words. "Dad, is that you?" I asked him, confused. "No, dipshit, it's Barney the dinosaur." "Of course it's me. Now what do you need?" "I'm about to head to Uncle Joseph's for our Tuesday dinner," he said sarcastically. I looked at the calendar and it was Saturday. "What do you mean?" "Dad, it's Saturday," I said to him in response. "What kind of drugs are you taking, and where can I get some?" He cracked wisely. "It's Tuesday, we just watched the Bengals game on Monday Night Football last night together." He finished his response. I was even more confused now. I'd been the one to identify his body at the morgue. He'd been wearing his favorite ball cap with the Cincinnati Bengals logo, an AC/DC t-shirt, blue jeans, and his brown leather cowboy boots. I asked him, "Dad, real quickly, what are you wearing?" He sighed at me and answered, "I find it very disturbing that you're asking your father that and not some hot chick. Anyway, I'm wearing my Bengals hat, AC/DC shirt, jeans, and boots." My blood ran cold with his response. Hastily I responded, "Dad, do not leave the house. I know it sounds insane, but you're going to get hit by a red Jeep." I said to him as fast as I could, "What? That's the most asinine thing I've ever heard. What are you, a fucking fortune teller?" I could tell he was getting really angry, but my stalling could be what saves his life and gets me a second chance with my dad. Just as he concluded his sarcastic question, I could hear tires screeching in the background in a collision, followed by my dad shouting, "Holy shit." I asked him, "Dad, are you all right?" There was a long pause on the other end. "Yeah, I'm all right. I'm just looking at a red Jeep crashed outside of the house. It struck the metal telephone pole." "How the hell did you know that was gonna happen?" he asked me with a bit of hesitation in his voice. I took a deep breath and responded, "Because, Dad, it is Saturday. You were hit by Timothy Pruitt 4 nights ago. Somehow I'm calling you from the future and just prevented your death." There was another long pause on the other end. He eventually responded, "Jesus Christ." I wasn't sure how to process the information. Preventing my dad's death brought me so much joy that I couldn't help but break down and cry once again, this time on the phone. Well, I'm not sure what to say other than thank you, I guess. My dad said hesitantly. I regained my composure before I told him, "You're welcome. I'm so glad that I got a second chance with you." "Yeah, kid, me too. Glad to know you can't get rid of me that easily," he responded. Just as he said that, I heard a crackling sound over the phone, followed by my dad's voice in a haunting manner. "Grady? Grady? What the fuck is going on?" My dad went from happy to frightened at the drop of a dime. "Well, Dad, what's going on? Are you all right?" I responded, panicking. "I don't know. Everything's so dark and I could barely breathe." I had an epiphany. If I saved my dad in the past, he would probably be where he currently is in the present. My dad was 6 feet underground as of this morning. "Dad, I don't have time to explain, but you're buried at the cemetery." I responded matter-of-factly. "Is this some kind of a sick fucking joke to you?" "How the hell were you able to bury me?" he said, escalating with a little bit more panic. "Just hold on, I'm on my way to the cemetery. I'm gonna stay on the phone with you." I grabbed my keys and ran out the door like my dad's life depended on it. The cemetery wasn't too far from the house, maybe an 8-minute drive. I was able to get there in 5. "Dad, stay with me," I told him. With a little less energy and out of breath, my dad began to choke and said, "Grady, I don't know how you're gonna get me out of here. I'm suffocating. I can't breathe," he said as he let out another big cough. "No, don't think like that. I'm gonna get you out of there." I ran right to a gravestone with a fresh mound of dirt. I didn't think to grab a shovel as I started shuffling the dirt with my bare hands, my dad still on speakerphone lying on the ground. "I'm here, just a little bit longer," I said to him as reassurance. On speaker, all I could hear was him coughing and wheezing as he let out one final breath. After that, there was nothing but silence. "Dad, can you hear me?" I shouted and got no response. I heard another crackling sound as an automated voice simply said, "Your wish has been granted. Thank you for choosing Ferryman Wireless. Goodbye," followed by 3 beeps as the line went dead. Devastated at what I had just done, I started punching the mound of dirt in frustration as I toppled over and started crying. After a few minutes of that, I looked over towards the lake next to the gravestones. In a foggy haze, I saw a wooden boat with a shadowy figure holding an oar. The figure turned around and started paddling away from the bank. I watched it slowly disappear in the fog as I sat there with tears in my eyes and dirt all over my skin.